Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Make sure that you go ahead and share this with somebody. We're going to come back in about 1 minute and get this conversation started. We're not going to hold you long, but this is definitely a conversation that I am excited about having with you all, and I look forward to having you join in and share your comments and feedback with me, as well as share your feedback and comments with the whole group. So go ahead, like, share, comment, and subscribe right now if you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Share this out. We'll be right back in 1 minute, and let's get this started. Hello. I see you in here. Make sure that you're liking and you're sharing this with somebody. I am watching Steve currently on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. So make sure that you share this out. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and like right now, share, and then subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of great content here on Teacher Talk that I'm excited about after the summer break. So go ahead and get involved right now. Get those notifications when we go live every Thursday at 9 o'clock. We're waiting just a few more minutes for some people to come in, and we will get this party started. Go ahead and get in the chat now. Let me know who's in the room. Say hello to me. Say good evening. It's the only polite thing to do. Hello to you. Now you respond in the chat and say hello to me. I'm excited to see who's in the room so I can give you a shout out once we get started. So hello guys, hello. I am going to go ahead and start this show tonight. Welcome to Teacher Talks. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes, and I'm excited that you have decided to join me this evening for this episode of Teacher Talks. This is actually an episode that I have put off. It's supposed to have been maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I did not have an opportunity to do this particular episode because life happened. And so I had a 3-week hiatus, I guess you would say. And so I am back now for the last episode before I take a summer break. I know you're saying, hey, you just took a break. I know. But officially, I am taking a summer break after this episode until we will kick back off in August. So if you're on YouTube right now, go ahead, like and subscribe right now. And make sure that you share this out with somebody as well. If you're on Facebook, you do the same thing. I'm watching you right now on Facebook. As you jump in the comments, I can see everything that you say. Go ahead, like, comment, and then share this. Share this. I have shared this with several groups already. This is a very interactive conversation. But as you can tell from the title, this is also going to be a very serious conversation. So our topic tonight is conversations with a young Black king. What are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell them? So as always, I say it is after 9 o'clock. It's Thursday night. I hope that the kids are down because it is time for the grown people to catch up. Get your coffee mug, get your tea, get your cocktail, get your wine, whatever it is you need to sip on tonight to get through this conversation with me. Go ahead, get it right now because it's going to get very hot and heavy, right? It's going to get very hot and heavy. So I need you to go ahead, get hydrated. Get hydrated right now. Now, I will be very honest with you in saying that since I thought about doing this episode, so much has happened. It's almost weekly we're hearing new stories of events involving Black men who are losing their lives due to police brutality of some instance. And then this last story I'm going to share with you is an old story that has come back up with new information. And so this is what I really want you to focus on. Even if you're not having conversations with young Black boys, they're still having thoughts and processing what's going on around them. Okay? So you don't have to bring up the conversation. They're still thinking about it. They're still processing. They're still trying to understand how they fit into the fabric of what's going on around them in the world. They don't have to be on Instagram to get this information. They don't have to be on Facebook or Snapchat to get this information. This information is all around them. It is unavoidable. They are hearing, they are seeing what's going on, and they're trying to understand what is happening, why is this happening, and how does this relate to me, because these people that are dying, they look like me. The people that are fighting don't look like me. And so, what are they fighting for, or what are they fighting against as it relates to who I am as a black male in this country, right? So, that's the conversation we're going to have tonight. So, you may be asking, why is this thing called Teacher Talk? So, for those of you that are new who don't know me, I am an educator by profession. And in the classroom, all of my conversations were not always centered around curriculum. They weren't always centered around standards. They weren't always centered around a particular content. For all of my old principals and department heads, I'm sorry for you to hear me say that. But every day I was not in the classroom talking about curriculum or content or standards or learning targets or things of that nature. Sometimes things happened or were happening in the lives of my students, and I had to focus on the real world situations and experiences that they were going through and address them immediately. And so at those times, I would say, close your books, stop what you're doing. We need to have a teacher talk. And so this whole series, webisode, podcast, whatever you want to call it, stemmed from the conversations I was having with students in the classroom, because we had to have what at that time we called real talk. I called it teacher talks. We had to have teacher talks. And so, boom, that has birthed this. And here we are almost 8 months later, and several episodes later, a lot of content later, and we're still going strong. You guys are still tuned in, plugged in, and are committed to watching and commenting and interacting with me every Thursday. So once again, I say thank you for being here. This show thrives and hinges on you and your commitment and your interactions with these topics. And so without you, this would be nothing. So thank you for being involved. Thank you for participating. And thank you for caring. We do focus a lot on education on this platform, but this conversation is engaging all stakeholders, parents, teachers, leaders, whoever you are. We're engaging everybody in conversations related to education directly or how things impact education indirectly. Hello, Ms. Adams. Hello, hello, hello. How are you this evening? Glad that you were able to join me. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you as well. You always come with some great comments, some great feedback. So I'm looking forward to see what you have to say about this particular topic, conversations with a young Black king. What are you going to tell them? So everybody else, if you're still here with me, make sure that you go out, you share. The conversations hinge on great connections and interactions. That's how we get through this. That's how we learn together as a community. So make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. So we're talking about conversations. Young men, Black men are dying. Young boys are watching. What are they seeing? What are they saying? And how are they seeing themselves in this world? That's what we're talking about tonight. And again, you don't have to have the conversation. They're already seeing it. They're already thinking it. You have to engage them to see where their brains are and how do they position themselves in this current world to say, yes, I have worth. Yes, I have value. Yes, I'm appreciated. Yes, I'm acknowledged. And yes, I matter. Yes, I matter. So let's start off tonight by watching this short documentary that is really almost 7 years old. And I want to know your reaction to it. Okay. So let me pull this up. I want you to watch intently. Remember, you still have time to share this, comment, and like. You still have time to share, like, comment, and if you're on YouTube, you have time to subscribe. That's very important. So this is a piece done by the New York Times. It is entitled "A Conversation About Growing Up Black." Okay? A conversation about growing up Black in America. And so let's watch this. As you're watching, you still can share this with others if you would like, which I do want you to. And then we will come back when this is over and engage in a conversation.
Racism means basically like
a large part of a race feels that they're superior to another race. And so not only do they believe that, but they act on it.
Examples would be in class. Sometimes I'd be the only black kid, and we read a book like, I don't know, Huck Finn, and then there's that uncomfortable moment, the magic word come up, and people would look at you and you're like, what's his reaction, and things like that.
I was walking home from school with this one white girl, and we just gotten off the bus, and we were almost home, and there were these group of black kids that just gone out of school. And she was like, oh, let's cross the street. There's a group of black kids. I don't want to run into them. And so she told me, which I don't even know why she would do that.
I used to wear a sweatband like just to reinforce my wrist. And I had a teacher come up to me and say, you should take it off because it looks gang affiliated.
I've been in situations where, I had to cross the street because I didn't want to scare the white lady that was walking.
It would get to the point where I would start to count how many times a woman would clutch her bag.
When I was 16, I was leaving my mom's house in my pajamas, which had snowmen on them, with my brother, and we were actually stopped by the police rather aggressively.
I've been stopped by the cops on my way between classes because we have two separate buildings, walking from one building to the other building, as my white students in the same class walk by me.
It's kind of upsetting because we live in a world where my mom has to be afraid when I walk outside from the people that are like meant to protect me. And I don't like when my mother feels like that. I love my mother. I want her to always be happy.
I walk tall, I keep my head up, try to be very articulate and polite. And so, of course, I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine because I act a certain way. And of course, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. The way people perceive you, is not up to you.
My parents taught me, cops are your friends, you're supposed to, they're here to protect you, but all I'm seeing is the opposite. So how can I not be afraid when I feel like I'm being hunted? When I feel like I'm there to fill a quota?
We are in a so-called free society, and as a black man, we literally don't feel free. We don't know what freedom is.
Every time we're killed, the first thing you see on the news is, criminal record, or something like that. So from the second the bullet hits us, already we're starting to be dehumanized.
With black people like myself, we don't get as many chances as they do. So you have to be aware and you have to watch out and you can't mess up.
This was an extremely emotionally taxing process for me in terms of coming to terms with maybe the nature of racism in my own life and in this country and in this world. And if you wait until somebody is 12, 13, and 14 to put that on them, it can be really difficult.
My dad, he's just like the honest one. He's like, listen, son, like there are things in this world, like you kind of have to watch out. He doesn't want me to live in fear, but he wants me to be aware.
I want people to know that I'm perfectly fine and I'm not gonna hurt anybody or do anything bad. I should be judged about like who I am and and what kind of person I am.
My parents would tell me, especially my mom, she would tell me, you have to endure, you have to muscle through it. And this is no different. It's a part of being a person of color in America.
And there's a certain comfortability associated with that, because if I know that something is inevitable, then I know how to deal with it. Fortunately, I've had parents who have said, this is what you do.
Mom and Dad, I'll be fine because you did a good job raising me. You gave me all the resources and the time, the blood, sweat, and tears to make me a good man, an honorable man, and the foundation to survive in this country.
I want you to know that I will act in an appropriate manner and do everything that you told me to do because I do love you, and I know that everything you say is not for a reason and not just to talk, and I love you.
All right. So, what are your thoughts as you watch that? And so, while you're gathering up what you want to say and drop that in the comment, um, let me say this. This was the first quote that hit me when the young man said this. We are dehumanized from the time the bullet strikes. So now remember, this video is from 2000. Let me say this correctly. I want to make sure I quote this correctly. This piece was done by the New York Times in 2015. Okay, 5 years ago. And so many of the issues we've seen today in the last 18 to 20 months did not exist when this piece was completed. But even in 2015, this young man was interviewed and he said, we, being African Americans, specifically males, are dehumanized from the time the bullet hits us. The negativity is cast on us, that there must be something that we have done to deserve being struck by a bullet, to be struck by police, to be struck by violence. There must be something that you had to do from the outside perspective, because the narrative instantly goes to dehumanizing who you are, right? And the second quote, I want you to think about that. And if you have a comment on that, you can also drop that in the chat. The second thing that was said that struck me is, if you feel something is inevitable, what will you do with that? I want you to process that. And for all my teachers out there, all my parents, godparents, guardians, anybody that services young people, if you feel that something is inevitable, what do you do with that? Let me put that in context for you. Let's go to school. If you feel you're not going to receive a high school diploma, that graduation is not in your future, or graduation is not for you, how do you respond to that belief or feeling? If you feel that you're going to end up in jail, and that's what people tell you all the time, that it is inevitable that you're going to end up in jail, what do you do, or how do you respond to that? If you feel that death is inevitable for you, everybody around you has dies at a young age, what do you do with that feeling, or how do you respond? If you feel like being a part of a gang or being involved in violence is part of who you are, it is inevitable that you are going to be engaged in those activities. What do you do, or how do you respond to those situations? If you feel that you are going to die in the hands of police, that your death is inevitable, what do you do, or how do you respond to that? If it's inevitable, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So how do you respond? And no matter what you do, that whatever you do, you're going to be dehumanized for doing what was inevitable. I think we have to get outside of the boxes that we live in. Oftentimes we think the world that we live in, the people that we interact with, is normal. It's not. When you think about the circumstances and environments many of our young African American males live in, it may not look, sound, feel like anything that you wake up to and go to bed to every night. We have to be realistic about that. We have to be realistic about that. So these young men oftentimes are living in inevitable situations, and now they're processing, well, what is my value in life? What is my worth? Is it even worth it to do all of my homework? Is it worth it to make great grades? Is it worth it to go to college if nobody's going to appreciate me? Is it worth it to get a degree if it means nothing, if I'm still going to be treated unfairly because of the color of my skin when I get on the job? Is it worth it? So these are the conversations that we have to have with these young men because they're already thinking about it. They are totally immersed in these circumstances, totally immersed in the violence that's going on towards young African American men, men in general, African American women in this country. So we have to have the conversation because if you're not telling them something, they're going to tell their own story and come up with their own idea of where they fit and their self-worth. So we have to have the conversation. So I'm waiting for you guys to get inside of this chat. Thank you, Ms. Barnes, for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy belated birthday. Love your pictures. We'll talk about that later, but you're doing it. So we have to have a conversation. So although the title is Conversation with a Young Black King, what I am doing is encouraging you to open up the platform to have a conversation with a young Black king. Because one, that's just what he is. He is a king, but we can't allow these kings to lose their crown because of the world around them. They deserve to stay on the throne and to rightly take up their space in this world as kings. But it oftentimes will depend on what you tell them. And we can no longer stay silent. We have to say something. We have to say something. Because these young men feel as if this young man said that there are many things that are going on in this world that seem to be inevitable. And we need to change the narrative of that to let them know that things that you seem to be negative as inevitable is not true. There's so many things in this world that are positive, that are possible. Okay? The negatives don't have to be inevitable, but the positives have to be seen as possibilities. And those are the things that we need to tell these young Black boys so they don't create these own stories that see themselves as victims and as murderers or as murdered or victims of murder or jail bait or drug dealers or gang members. We have to talk to them. We have to tell our stories. We have to build them up brick by brick because the world around them is tearing them down quickly, very quickly. So let's see what you guys have to say. I got an amen in here. I love a good amen. That keeps me going. That encourages me. That motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. And that amen came from Miss Sabrina Barnhill. While you guys are thinking, and I know you're getting in the chat, I want to share more with you. Remember, if you're on YouTube, which all of you can be on YouTube, if you haven't been on my YouTube yet, go ahead and go there now and subscribe to the channel. You will always get notifications when I go live, which is what I want you to do. If you're on Facebook, once again, you can like and comment. I want you in the comment section, but I also want you to share this. If you have missed this and you want somebody to go back and watch this, you can always go back to my Facebook page or YouTube and watch this after we end the live. It's always there. All the content is always there. You can go back and watch any episode of your liking. There are many there for you to choose from. Even our teacher tales, which are hilarious. Even our game nights, which we are going to come back with a game night real soon because you guys enjoyed that. And I love having a good time with you. So in the meantime, let's go to another story. This is a recent story, guys. And this really just baffled me, if I could say that. I was really, really taken aback by this story. I was a little bit in, I don't want to say disbelief. I was just troubled by the story. Okay, I wasn't in disbelief, but I was troubled. And this is a story of a Black man that died in 2019, but the narrative around his death has totally
Hear the
changed
fallout now. Police
from what it initially was. And so I want to share this with you. If you haven't seen it, you're going to see it now. Let's jump to this comment. We'll come back to your comment, Ms. Adams, after I show this video. How about that? All right. Let's get into this video. Remember, watch, listen, and we'll come back with some comments and feedback.
body cam footage that shows a black man's death in custody in 2019. The video just being released, and now the death of Ronald Green is the subject of a civil rights investigation. Our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas is tracking the story. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. Yet another case involving the tragic death of an apparently unarmed black man at the hands of police. Warning, what you're about to see is very disturbing. This morning, Louisiana State troopers under intense scrutiny over a 2019 traffic incident that they claim resulted in a high-speed chase. Ronald Green here pleading with troopers in video from police body camera footage obtained by the Associated Press. Green, only 49, died that night. And questions are mounting about whether his case involved excessive force.
Hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I am sorry.
In clips of a 46-minute video, police seen tasing him, punching him, and at one point dragging him by his shackled feet when he's already handcuffed. The Green family has been demanding justice, claiming a cover-up.
As a family, it's tore us apart. It's tore us apart. We do all that we can to just maintain our sanity. It's so hurtful. It's so hurtful.
Police initially said that Green died from injuries after crashing into a tree, but in audio obtained by ABC News, one of the officers involved in the incident suggesting a different story. The coroner reported Green's death as accidental, the result of a heart attack. Louisiana State Police are declining to comment, citing an ongoing civil rights investigation. They're calling the release of this video unauthorized, George.
And Pierre, you also have the results this morning of an investigation due with our own stations into police diversity.
George, we found that police officers in most metro areas were not as diverse as the communities that they serve. In 99 of the country's biggest metro areas, the share of police officers that are white is larger than the percentage of white people in those communities. That's according to our detailed analysis of census data. And in 6 of those American cities and the surrounding metro areas, including Pittsburgh, Knoxville, and Spokane, the census data showed that 9 out of every 10 police officers were white, George.
And Pierre, significantly, when police departments are more diverse, arrest patterns change.
George, in metro areas where police were 90% white, black people were 5 times more likely to be arrested than their white counterparts. But in metro areas where people of color make up at least half of police officers, black people were arrested at only 2 times the rate of whites. George, the rate of black arrests was cut by more than half.
Boy, that is something. Pierre Thomas, thanks very much. All of you at home can see more of Pierre's investigation into diversity in policing. That's tonight on World News Tonight and ABC News Live.
Now, thank you guys for watching that. Now, before we go into that video, let's get into Ms. Adams' comment. Ms. Adams says, from my experiences, they want you to stay out of their business. They have no fear. What is going to happen? They just live a fast life for today. And that is in reference to our young black men. So she's saying that in her experiences, they don't want you in their business. They want to live life without fear. They want to live life in the fast lane, is what she's saying. And I can agree with that. One, because I've been with them. I have encountered and interacted with young black men my whole life, in and out of school as I have mentored. And one of the biggest things that has made a difference in my ability to connect with the young black men is the trust and the relationships. For those young men, Ms. Adams, that you know personally, if they respect you and they trust you, they will listen to you. But the key is to this, is also this. They're just not listening, you're also listening. I think as adults, we miss this point sometimes, that we just want to do a lot of talking. And these young kids are not like we used to be. And we were the same way. We listened out of obedience. Okay, we sat there quietly and pretended to listen, but we did that out of respect. These young men and young women want to be heard. They want to have a voice as well. They want to be a part of the conversation. It's not one-way communication, it's two-way communication. Okay, so you can't talk at them. You have to have a conversation with them. Okay, so yeah, many of them, they don't want you in their business. Stay out of my business, let me do my thing. But why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And many times I believe, until you get to the breakthrough, many of them do that because they feel like death, jail, or some type of life is inevitable. We just talked about that. Going to jail, selling drugs, being involved in the gang, or ultimately dying at a young age is inevitable. So why not live a short life, a fast life, right? And get the best bang for the buck I can, because I'm not going to be here that long. And I'm not trying to live life being tight, wound up very strongly, being too strict on myself. I want to have a good time and have fun, because I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to go to jail anyway, blase, blase, blase. And so they're not trying to listen to that until you can make the connection, have trusting relationships, and then engage in dialogue with, not to them. Remember, it's not one way, two-way. It has to be a two-way conversation. Let's dive into Sabrina Barnhill. She says, keep building them up by speaking encouraging words daily. Tell them they are mighty men of God and hold value. Tell them that their past does not determine their future. And one of the biggest ways to really drive that last point home is to tell them about your past. Because oftentimes they see us as adults as faultless. We've never done anything wrong. And if we were to tell the truth, we really want them to feel that way. And so they feel like your level of perfection is so unreachable that I can't even talk to you because you're so perfect. Because we never tell them about all the mistakes we make. Even as adults, not just as children, the mistakes we currently make as adults every day. And so they don't see you as human. You're superhuman. How do I talk to a superhuman? I can't. I can't have a conversation with you. You're way up here. I'm way down here. We're not on the same level. And so tell them, talk to them, and tell them your mistakes, that you have faults, and you continue to try to grow every day, to renew and rebuild yourself. Start over from all the things you did that were silly and petty and immature the day before. Today's a new day. And you too have to forgive them of all their, I hate to say this churchy word, past transgressions. Forgive them, give them grace. Start over. Every day is a new day. And you can't hold them hostage to something they did last week, last year, 2 years ago. Whether these are kids that you mentor or these are your own kids, forgive them, let them grow and make mistakes. Don't hold them hostage. Why? Because they too feel like you are part of the problem, because what is deemed inevitable for them, they believe that you believe the same thing as well. They believe you believe the same thing. Let me say that again. They believe you believe the same thing about them. Okay? Let's jump into some more comments. This is another comment by Ms. Barnhill. I want to make sure I get this right. Now jump into, we've got Dr. Drum on here. She has a comment. Ms. Barnhill says, I speak over my son and others because they want respect. They do. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Respect is a big issue for these young people. It's a really big issue. So when you see young people in our minds disrespecting older people, it's because they feel like they were disrespected. This whole idea that respect is given for them does not exist. Respect is earned. I don't care who you are. You could be the pastor of the church. You could be the president of the United States. I don't care who you are. You got to earn my respect. I'm not just giving it away. And why do they feel that way? Because they often go around this world being disrespected. So the last thing they have to hold on to is respect. That's all they have. And so you're gonna earn it from them. They're not going to freely give it to you. Dr. Drum, I see you on here. Thank you for joining. So we can now have a conversation. We can dive into the video we just saw about Mr. Ronald Green in Louisiana. Let me just say this. The part of this story that probably rattles me the most is the fact that the initial report said that this man died due to a vehicular accident by hitting a tree. And now we see a body cam video where they are beating this man mercilessly, handcuffed to the ground, dragging him, and then the audio of the cop that says, "I beat the out of him." Blase, 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 and then all of a sudden he just went limp. Who took that report? If I'm watching that video and I receive this report, this is like apples and bananas, not even oranges. And the report was accepted, and the vehicular accident was the information that was shared with the family. And now somebody leaked this video. Now, I want you to put yourself in the mind of a young black child. A young black male child who is seeing all of these young black men die in the hands of people that are to protect and serve. And so when you think about what you have told your son to do when a cop pulls him over, this is the most startling part. This is a thought I really want you to think about. Think about the things you have told your son to do when he's stopped by a police officer. Do you feel that he is going to do those things now in light of what we have seen over the last 18 months? Does he feel comfortable keeping his hands on the steering wheel if it's inevitable that the cop's gonna pull a gun on him? Does he feel comfortable not protecting himself with his words if it's inevitable that the cop may shoot him? Does he feel comfortable not putting his phone on speaker or putting his camera on his dashboard so that somebody can hear and see what's going on if he feels that his imminent death or danger is inevitable in the hands of police officers? That is a big question that you have to ask yourself, because what we used to say to them about how to interact with the cops, I don't know if these young boys feel that works anymore, because the cops are just going to kill them anyway. So what do you say? How do you have that conversation? How do you change their perspective on how they're viewed in light of how they feel what is inevitable? Because every king wants respect, and every king deserves respect. And these young black kings we're talking about are no different. And they're willing to get it from anybody at any cost. Anybody at any cost. So we have to change our approach, because what we used to say no longer holds true, because you can do all the right things and still come out with the wrong outcome. Why? This young man said it in the first video I showed you. Because once the bullet rings out, you are instantly, as a black male, dehumanized. And then fault is cast upon you because you created a situation that led to your imprisonment, your hurt, or your death. This is not new, people. This is not new. So when we talk about this hyper sense of masculinity among black men, why do you think that even existed? Why did black men have to be hyper masculine? because we wanted respect. And we were going to get it by any means necessary. You were not going to disrespect us. And I think we have to really own up to what has happened in this country that has led to the mindset of many young black men, the death of many black men at the hands of white cops, white officials, or due to white policies and practices that are put in place to dehumanize us or to belittle us or to create inequities among the black and brown community. Y'all, we got to get real. We have to have real conversations. I sit here every day and I watch the news and I watch schools fight against parents about not only masks, these parents are fighting about this idea called critical race theory that says many of the instances that has led to situations in this country were due to practices of race. Okay? Critical race theory basically sees the world through a lens of color. And these parents are fighting schools saying, we don't want this taught in our schools. We don't want our students subjected to this idea. This world is not based off of race, but it is. This country has solely and heavily and predominantly been based off race for over 400 years. When are we going to tell that truth? And this is the other thing I have to say. If you're colorblind, how do you ever see the beauty of a rainbow? If this country is not about race, and race doesn't matter, if we become colorblind, how do you ever see the full beauty and experience the magnificence of a rainbow? Because in order to see a rainbow, you have to acknowledge each of the colors that make up its beauty. And each color carries its own value, has its own purpose, has its own significance, and has its own worth in the collective of the body of the rainbow. So in this country, color blindness is unacceptable. And I said this in another video, we have to be color cognizant so that we can honor, value, and acknowledge all of the colors in this country and what they bring to the table. And what we have to say to our young black kings, and Miss Barnhill said this beautifully, is that you have worth, you have value. And I'm here to ensure you that the gifts and talents you've been bestowed with in this life are needed. They're so needed. And the world can't exist to its full capacity without you in it. So I encourage you to have these conversations with your sons, teachers. I encourage you to find value and find the space in your classrooms to acknowledge, honor each of your students, even if the curriculum doesn't do it, even if the content doesn't do it, even if the test they take, they don't see themselves in it. You have responsibility to your students so they know they have worth, value, and significance in this world. So then they're not on the fast lane, but they learn how to slow down and appreciate who they are and all that they bring to the table. Conversations with young black kings are necessary. Why? Because they already are immersed in it through social media and all other forms of media. They see what's happening. So if you don't engage them in the conversation, they're going to come up with the reasoning of their own. And we don't know what that looks like until something happens, because they feel like there are things in this world that are inevitable. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Remember, like, care. I want you to care, but I also want you to share, and I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as Periscope. If you're on Facebook, remember I'm here every Thursday, but I am taking a break after today. I am starting my summer break after this episode, and I will be picking back up in August. I will always be sharing out those dates with you guys, so stay tuned to my social media so you know when I'm coming back. Thank you. I appreciate each one of you. I value you. I love you so much. This has been a pleasure for me to do each and every Thursday night. When I come back, the date's not changing, the time's not changing. I'll be back on Thursdays at 9 o'clock. This has been such a joy in my life to do this, to share, bring information and access to the community as it relates to education and the needs of those who are outcast, not recognized, and not valued. And so thank you guys so much. This is Dr. Christopher Holmes. I'm here with Teacher Talks, and I am a representative of Fully Engaged Education and Resources. It has been a pleasure to serve you. I will see you in August. Until then, as I always say, be safe, be blessed.